Hi, are you a fresher or young professional wanting to succeed in your job interview? Do you want to know what all an interviewer considers while interviewing you and make a decision to either select or reject you? If yes, then this is the training session for you. In this training, I will take you through tips that you as a young professional should consider while attending an interview. These tips have been created after several surveys, focus group discussions, and data crunching. So let's begin. The objective of this module is to give you an insight on what an interviewer considers while interviewing, help you be better prepared, and thereby get selected. An interview process can be subdivided into three phases: the pre-interview process, during interview process, and post-interview process. All three phases are critical, and this module thereby covers tips for all the three phases. Now let's start with the tips for the pre-interview stage. Pre-interview tips. The pre-interview stage is important as it helps you prepare for your interview both mentally and physically. It helps you gather vital information, be more confident, and thereby get selected. Research shows that 47% of applicants fail interviews due to their lack of knowledge about the company and the job description. 14% of candidates get rejected due to overall confidence level, lack of voice clarity, or lack of smile. 71% of employers wouldn't hire someone who doesn't follow the appropriate dress code. In this module, tips for all the above have been covered. I can guarantee you, if you listen carefully and follow the tips, your chances for success is far higher than the others. I will now begin with the pre-interview tips. First, learn about the company for which you are attending the interview. This is the most critical step, and most candidates miss this step once they get a call from the hiring manager. It may be due to reasons of non-availability of time, overexcitement, or being overconfident. Once you get a call for the interview, go through the company website and its social media pages. It is advisable that you go through the company's vision and mission, understand what products and services the company has to offer, understand which segment the company operates in, whether it's B2B or B2C, understand who are their clients and customers, and also understand what is their geographical spread. To get a glimpse of their work culture, you can browse through their employee reviews by visiting Glassdoor or AmbitionBox. You don't need to memorize everything. Maybe just remember 2 to 3 critical points for each section that you can explain in your own words during the interview. You can really impress the hiring manager and come closer to getting that job if you also mention as to why working in this company is important to you. Let me give you an example. Say the company for which you are being interviewed have developed a software that you use frequently and you find it very convenient and easy to use. During the interview, you can say something like, I have been using your application and find it very easy to navigate. It has really helped my family members and my friend circle. I would really like to work with you and contribute to creating many more such happy customer experiences. Now, doesn't that sound nice? Doesn't this sound that you really want to work and make a difference? Tip 2. Get familiar with the job description and skills required for the job. To get familiar, you must go through the job description in detail and ask relevant questions to the recruiter wherever you are not clear. It so happens that most candidates just casually browse through the job description. Later, during the interview, they tend to be surprised when they hear the responsibilities from the interviewer. That's when they realize that they are not aligned with the responsibilities mentioned. To avoid this embarrassing situation, please read the responsibilities mentioned in the job description carefully. Go through the skills which are required for the job. Understand whether you have the requisite skills before applying or before saying a yes to the hiring manager to proceed. Look at what is the experience required for the job. Understand what is the educational qualifications that they are looking for the job. This will help you understand if you are the right candidate for this position. It will also help you to prepare for the interview and answer questions such as how can you add value to this particular role. Tip number 3, confirm clearly your availability for the interview. Once your hiring manager gives you information regarding the interview date and time, you will need to confirm your availability clearly so that there is no misunderstanding. If the interview details have been sent to you on mail, please reply the mail confirming your availability. If you are not available, inform the recruiter or hiring manager clearly and give them the alternate dates to check and come back. Once you have given your confirmation for the interview, ensure there are no other meetings or appointments lined up that clashes with your given interview slot. Tip number 4, practice by doing mock interviews. Once you have confirmed the interview date and time, you need to start practicing by doing mock interviews. Start recording your videos. This is a must if you want to succeed. The more you practice, the more closer you come to confidently answering the interviewer questions. Keep practicing till you like what you see and hear. Do mock interview with your friends and relatives who gives you unbiased opinion. Take their feedback and work on it. This will help you to improve and articulate better. Be ready to answer questions on all the aspects mentioned in your CV. One common reason why candidates get rejected is that they are unable to answer questions about their work or technical skills that they themselves have mentioned in their CV. To avoid this situation, stick to mentioning appropriate work details that you have actually done and the skills that you have actually used in your work. It is always better to be honest than to be dishonest and get rejected. Tip number 4. This is continuing from the previous slide, wherein I have listed a couple of key interview questions. First, tell me about yourself. When this question is asked, the interviewer is interested to know about your previous work experience, your educational qualifications, your past accomplishments, and why you believe you are the right fit for the job. Avoid sharing personal details such as specific religious or political affiliations or your personal belief systems. Be brief yet professional. The next question that you may be asked is, why are you interested to work in this company? You can easily answer this question if you have prepared yourself by going through the company related information and the job description as mentioned in the previous tips. A common question asked during the interview is to tell me about your strengths and areas of improvement. Here, the interviewer wants to know how you can use your strengths to add value to the organization. While stating your areas of improvement, it is best to give weaknesses that you are working to correct. Avoid giving personality traits as your weakness. For example, if you are asked what are your weaknesses, do not say I am impatient. Give the context as to when do you get impatient. You can always say that when there is a timeline or deadline given to me and wherein I need to complete the work, I usually tend to become impatient as the timeline approaches. I intend to correct this by becoming more organized, breaking down the task into specific day-wise deliverables and keeping internal targets or day-wise targets for myself so that I can comfortably achieve the given task within the given timeline. In that way, the interviewer knows that you are very well aware as to when you become impatient, and you are also making efforts to correct this particular area of improvement. Another question which might come is, where do you see yourself 5 years down the line? While answering this question, make sure you don't talk about being in a different organization or venturing out in a different line of business. The interviewer is interested to understand if you want to work with them and grow with the organization. You can always split your answer in two parts. You can say, for the first two years, I will be focusing on becoming hands-on and mastering my current scope of work. For the next 3 years, I would like to take on added responsibilities and collaborate with different departments to bring about process improvements. Next common question which is asked is, what are your interests or hobbies? It is best you answer this question with honesty and passion. Hobbies are the key to your personality, and hence give a short and crisp explanation as to how it connects to your job. Don't mention anything political or controversial. Never say that you don't have any hobbies. What is your salary expectation? This is one of the most common questions asked during any interview. And also a very vital question, as the answer to this determines your pay. Before you answer this question, it's best to have conducted a research on the market standard salary. Keep a specific number in mind and avoid giving a range. You can keep two figures in mind. One, your ideal salary, the salary with which you would be most happy. And two, you're willing to settle salary. This is the salary which is in line with the market standards and you're willing to thereby accept it. The difference between your ideal and your expected should be less than 5,000 rupees. If you're a fresher and you would also need to consider your strengths, your weaknesses, and also the different benefits that the job has to offer. For example, training opportunities, exposure to corporate environment, learning from new people, from new geographical locations. These are all added bonuses to the job. So when you state your salary expectations, please keep this also in mind. Hope you have found the module useful so far. Continue to listen carefully for more tips to success in your interview and get placed in your dream job. Let's now move to tip number 5. Ensure you carry your appropriate documents required for the interview. If specific documents are required to be carried for the interview, ensure it is carried in a neat file with required stationery. You should ideally carry photocopies along with the originals, especially your mark sheets. You can also carry your certificates of other achievements to increase your possibilities of getting hired. You may keep copies of your government ID proofs and other identity cards such as PAN or Aadhaar card. Keep your bank account details handy, as some employers hire candidates on the spot and begin their documentation on day one. Don't forget to keep a few passport size and stamp size photographs ready. File all of these neatly on the previous day to avoid last minute hustle. Carry at least 3 hard copies of your resume in a file. These days, in most job interviews, candidates send soft copy via email to the recruiter. Yet, it is advisable to carry along a hard copy in your folder as well. Tip number 6. Know your interview location. For a face-to-face interview, know the route you will take to reach the interview location and how much travel time you will need. Build in this additional time and start early to ensure you are not too late. You should also gather information about the building or the block number where you're going to have the interview, the floor number, landmark, and the contact person number and name. If it's a virtual interview, ensure you get the interview link in your mail ID. Tip number 7. Be well ahead of time for the interview. No matter if it's a virtual or face-to-face interview, plan to reach the venue minimum 15 minutes before the interview time. This will ensure you don't get delayed due to traffic congestion or initial security checks at the interview location or any other reason. For virtual interview, be ready with the below: your computer, check your network, check if the link is working, check the video camera and the audio, check your lighting. Ensure you join the meeting link at least 5 minutes before the scheduled time. Tip number 8. Ensure you are well groomed. Be it a virtual or face-to-face interview, ensure that you are well groomed with a formal attire. Grooming plays a very important role, as research shows that almost 71% of employers wouldn't hire someone who doesn't follow the appropriate dress code for the interview. Ensure your attire is neatly ironed and shoes are polished. For men, your hair and beard should be neatly groomed. For women, your hair should be neatly combed. Wearing a mild perfume is recommended. Avoid any scent that may distract the interviewer. Avoid flashy jewelry or watches. The next 2 slides contain professional grooming tips for men and women. Let's start with the professional grooming tips for men. Professional grooming tips for men. Your hair should be neatly combed and trimmed. Your face should be neatly shaved with no stubble, or if you have a beard, then it should be neatly trimmed as well. Nails should be clean. The interview attire should be formal, well ironed and sober. Shoes should be well polished and should be black or brown in color. No flip-flops strictly. Professional grooming tips for women. Your hair should be neatly combed. If you are wearing makeup, it should be neat and look light. Your shoes can either be low-heeled or high-heeled. Avoid flip-flops. Your nails should be neatly trimmed and clean. Your attire should be clean, well ironed and sober. Avoid wearing any flashy jewelry like flashy earrings or watches or bangles. Hope you have all found these tips useful. Tip number 9. Be patient and composed while waiting at the interview area. Once you reach the interview venue, ensure you wait patiently at the designated waiting area after informing the front office your name and purpose of visit. Avoid talking loudly on the phone or frantically walking about or slouching on the sofa. Ensure all appropriate forms are filled in accurately and handed over to the reception. Put your mobile devices on silent. Tip number 10. Choose a quiet, disturbance-free place for your virtual interview. As per a recent Indeed survey, 82% of employers surveyed use virtual interviews as their platform, and 93% of employers plan to continue using the digital platform to interview students. Hence, preparing the location for a disturbance-free virtual interview is very important. Here are some tips. Make sure you choose a place where you don't have noise and distractions. Your background surroundings should be clean. Ensure appropriate lighting so that the interviewer can see you clearly. It is advisable to use a headphone to ensure voice clarity. Now that we have covered all the pre-interview tips, it is time for a quick recap. Tip number 1. Learn about the company for which you are attending the interview. Tip number 2. Get familiar with the job description and skills required for the job. Tip number 3. Confirm clearly your availability for the interview. Tip number 4. Practice by doing mock interviews. Tip number 5. Ensure you carry all your appropriate documents required for the interview. Tip number 6, know your interview location. Tip number 7, be well ahead of time for your interview. Tip number 8, ensure you are well groomed. Tip number 9, be patient and composed while waiting. Tip number 10, choose a quiet, disturbance-free place for your virtual interview. With this, we come to a conclusion of all the pre-interview tips and now move on to the next phase of during the interview tips. We all know interview is a very vital part and it's a prerequisite for selection of a candidate for a job. The interview is a tool where the interviewer gathers useful information about the candidate that cannot be assessed from one's resume. It actually gives the candidate an opportunity to market himself or herself. So this stage is very critical, and let's begin the tips that you need to follow while giving your interview. Tip number 11, your body language matters. Your handshake should be firm but not iron handshake. While doing handshake, maintain eye contact and smile. Smile and greet the interview panel appropriately with confidence and with a handshake preferably. Maintain eye contact with your interviewer or interviewers. If there are multiple interviewers, remember to engage with all of them by looking at the interviewer while responding to his or her question. Be aware of your body language. Convey confidence and engagement with your posture. Sit upright and do not slouch on the chair. Keep both feet flat on the ground. Avoid crossing your legs at the knees, which can seem defensive, or placing your ankle over one knee, which can seem overly casual. Keep both feet grounded to appear confident and professional. While being seated for the interview, slightly lean forward. This displays a genuine interest. Keep your arms open and uncrossed. Do not fidget with your dress or hair or any other items. Maintain a genuine smile in your face while you listen and respond. Tip number 12. Stay positive and answer to the point. Listen carefully to the interviewer and make sure you answer the question your interviewer is asking. Be polite and use the right language and tone while answering. Relate to your skills and accomplishments and objectives to the needs of the company. Focus on the positive aspects of your experience, skill set, and accomplishments. Use clear and direct language. Avoid using filter words such as or like. Make your point and don't ramble. Be honest and assertive. Ensure that the facts stated are correct and based upon what you have actually done or actually learned. Be assertive but not rude when you answer the questions. Tip number 13, use the STAR method. Use the STAR method to answer questions about your skills and experience. You need to first give the context before starting the work that was done. Situation, the situation you had to deal with. Here the word situation means a problem that you have faced that needs to be arrested. Task, the task you were given to do. It may be to either reduce the problem or eliminate the problem altogether. Action, the action you took to reduce or eliminate the problem. Result, what happened as a result of your action and what you learned from it. Without giving the end result, the interviewer may not be able to understand the impact of your action that you have taken. It is always better to give the actual numerical value of improvement. Towards the end of the interview, ask a couple of questions when you have been given the opportunity. Choose questions that make you sound keen. For example, what opportunities are there for training with this company? It's best not to ask about your pay or holidays at this particular stage. When finishing an interview, it's critical to get the contact information of the hiring manager and ask for the next steps. This may result in learning the window of time for decision making. Rather than asking what are the next steps, try questions that will give you more information, like how many days do you think you need to make a decision? Or will there be a second round? And if so, when will you be notifying candidates moving forward? The next section contains some critical do's and don'ts during virtual interview. This is again a critical information as nowadays most employers would want to take interviews using digital channels. Let us see them one by one. Good lighting is a prerequisite to a great interview experience. The interview panel at the other end should be able to see you clearly. Ensure that the light source is in front of you and not behind you. Test your video prior to the start and adjust your light settings accordingly. If you are wearing eyeglasses, then direct light falling on them may be distracting. Minimize the glare by adjusting the lighting. While giving interviews, sit in an upright position. Sitting up straight shows interest in the job and respect for the interviewers. On the other hand, slouching shows a lack of confidence and sends a message that you are disinterested. Make an effort to look directly into the camera lens when answering questions. In practice, in a live video interview, you have to look at your interviewer's face on the screen so you can respond to them properly. For the best of both worlds, resize the window and move it close to your webcam as possible. Smile when you respond during the interview. It helps to create a connection with those interviewing you. Most people don't know what you should do with your hands during the interview. It is advisable to move your hands while responding instead of keeping them stiff. Crossing your arms or holding your head in your hand projects boredom or defensiveness. Avoid it. During the interview, you should be 100% focused and avoid distractions in advance. Keep your cell phones away and in silent mode. Ensure that the place of interview is quiet and free from any disturbances. Hope you found these tips helpful. Do pass this to your friends and relatives as well. A quick recap of the pointers you must consider during your interview. Tip number 11, your body language matters. Tip number 12, stay positive and answer to the point. Tip number 13, use the STAR method to answer questions. S stands for the situation that you have to address or the problem that you have to address. T stands for the task that was given to you to address the situation. A stands for the action that you have taken to address the problem or the situation. And R is the result. So you can use the STAR method to answer any questions. Tip number 14, follow the do's and don'ts for virtual interview. Let us now go to the last and final section, the post-interview process. Here I have listed the post-interview tips. But before that, we need to understand why the post-interview process is important. First, it gives you an opportunity to ask questions. A principal reason for a follow-up after any job interview is for you to ask questions about the company or the job that you may have forgotten to ask during your interview. This is important as many candidates get tongue-tied and become nervous during the interview process. This may cause them to forget to ask some important questions about the variety of work you would be doing. If the person you interviewed gave you his or her card, use the contact information to send them an email. People are busy, But you want to ensure that you are gathering all of your answer before taking the next step with a company. Send a follow-up message to be remembered. You should aim to make sure that the hiring manager remembers your name. Hiring managers often get many applications from potential employees on top of the other demands of their work. It is natural thereby for them to forget all the details of the interview. Find the address of the company and write to the hiring manager either a handwritten card or you can send them a follow-up email. This shows them that you are paying attention and that you appreciate their time. It will also speak volumes about your interest in the position and give them a reason to take a second look at your application. Exhibit your professionalism. Aside from getting the HR department to remember you, making an effort to follow up after the job interview exhibits how professional you are. Many candidates will not make this extra effort. Thus, it will not show the company that you took their time seriously and showcased your good character. In the event that the hiring manager was on the fence about you, this will improve your chances of getting selected substantially. So let us now go through the tips for the post-interview process. Tip number 15. Assess your interview performance. When you leave the interview, try to reflect on some of the harder questions that you were asked. This will be of great help for you to prepare for your future interviews. Tip number 16. Write down anything you want to remember. If there is something that you want to remember outside of how you answered the questions and what you did and didn't say, record that. Write that down. Perhaps you met with more than one person. Jot down their names. Write down insights you learned about the office environment that you would have further questions about. Should you get a second interview or things you want to remember about your interview. Tip number 17. Send a thank you note to the hiring manager. A thank you email within 24 hours of the interview is a very important task and most candidates do not do this. You should go ahead and send a thank you email and that will complete your post-interview window. Tip number 18. Connect with the hiring manager on social media networking sites. This is an essential part of growing your personal network. Even if you end up in a different position with a different company, growing your network is beneficial and helps you to stay poised for future opportunities. If they accept your request, it could be an indicator that they are interested in learning more about you. This is an essential part of growing your personal network. Even if you end up in a different position with a different company, growing your network is beneficial and helps you to stay poised for all kinds of future opportunities. Tip number 19. Submit supporting documents as required. This can be either a written assessment or payslips or your experience letter or consent forms to run various checks as a part of the pre-screening process. It can also be your previous completed works such as designs created, etc. Wherever original documents are submitted, ensure that you get them back within the agreed specific timeline. Tip number 20. Contact your references. If you have submitted references to your potential employer, after your first interview, you should let them know someone might connect with them. It is customary to only submit references if a person knows you, that you are offering them or using them as a reference. Tip number 21. Upon receipt of the offer letter and you have decided to accept the job, inform the company the agreed stipulated time by when you will be joining and provide the joining date. Find out what you need to do on your first day. If you have decided to turn down the offer, be polite while communicating your decision. You may want to work for them in the future. Tip number 22. These are some tips that I have mentioned as to how to bounce back if in case you are not selected. First, try to be positive. This is a chance to learn from your experience and build your resilience through the different steps that I have listed. First, ask for feedback on your interview to understand what did not go well. Many candidates do not do that. So this is something which you should do in case if you're not selected. Make a list of your wins, however small they are. Reflect about the things that did not go so well and what you could do to improve the next time. Do more mock interviews. Ask friends, family, colleagues, or any career advisor to help you. With this, we have come to the end of the post-interview tips. It's time for a quick recap. Tip number 15, assess your interview performance. Tip number 16, write down anything that you want to remember. Tip 17, send a thank you note to the hiring manager. Tip number 18, connect with the hiring manager on social media networking sites. Tip number 19, submit supporting documents as required. Tip number 20, contact your references. Tip number 21, upon receipt of offer letter, whether you want to accept or whether you want to reject, follow the tips that I have listed. Tip number 22, these are a few tips to bounce back in case if you're not selected so that you can improve your performance for your next interview. Hope this module has given you all the relevant insight and information as to how you can crack any interview. If you know of any young professionals who are to attend interviews, do help them by sharing this module. Feel free to leave your comments and suggestions. You can mail me at Sushmita, SUSHMITA, at tillitsolutions.in for any queries. If you are interested in joining my workshop, email me at info@tillitsolutions.in with your name and with your contact number for me to get in touch with you. Thank you and wish you all a very best.